the Bhagavad Gita. We're going to continue from where we left off. In this video, we're going to talk about when Sri Krishna reveals to Arjuna his true form as Vishnu and says to him, I have become death, the destroyer of worlds. You might have heard Oppenheimer say that line. What does he actually mean by that? Becoming death, the destroyer of worlds, what is the actual cycle of this cosmos? How does the universe begin and how does the universe end? How do we, as people that follow Sanatana Dharma, us as Hindus, what do we understand from the yogic science about the universe and its origins and so forth? And how do we compare that with modern science? And what does modern science say about this story of the universe, its theories and so forth? And in chapter 8, which this video is going to be about, Sri Krishna lays it all out, and I'm going to give you my interpretations, my insights onto the slokas I read in chapter 8, and I'm going to have translations directly on screen from this very book. So without further ado, let's get started with chapter 8, shloka 1. Arjuna said, what is that Brahman? What is Ariyatma? What is Karma? O best among men, what is said to be Adibhuta and what is called Adideva? Now, some very important questions. Honestly, you could have said these questions a bit earlier, Arjuna, but he's going with the motions, and Sri Krishna, right at the end of chapter 7, Sri Krishna just laid out a bunch of vocabulary, and Arjuna's like, what is that? So Arjuna's doing what he does best as a great student, asking those questions, not just looking up to the Lord and just saying, okay, whatever you say. Who and how is Adiyajna here in this body, O Madhusunana? And how at the time of death art thou to be known by the self-controlled? The Blessed Lord Sri Krishna says, the imperishable is Brahman, the supreme. It's dwelling in the individual body. It's called Adiyatma. The offering which causes the origin of beings is called karma. This human body, this ego, this identity of, oh, I'm this person, I come from this place, and this is what I do on these days, and oh, I'm a winner, I'm a failure, these different ideas that come about from an external world that you adopt, all of it's just karma. It's not this supreme thing that's coming down from high above. It's just nature going through the motions like a tumbleweed in the desert. That which is the trueness of all creation, that Brahman, that thing that dwells in the bodies of all individuals, that oneness of all creation, that's what's beautiful, that's what's unique, that is what is absolutely divine and absolutely blissful. Adibhuta pertains to the perishable nature, and Parusha is the Adidevata. I alone am the Adiyajna here in the body, O best of the embodied. So Adibhuta pertains to Prakriti, nature, which is one half of all of this existence. And then you have Parusha, which is consciousness. Now we can say the Shiva and Shakti duality here, in which we have Shiva as the masculine consciousness and power and all of particularity and manifestation as the divine feminine. With these two things, we have all of what we see before us. The Adiyajna, that is what pertains to Lord Vishnu, because Vishnu is perceived and understood to be Yajna. That which sustains this creation is the Yajna itself. And whoever at the time of death, leaving the body, goes forth remembering me alone, he attains my being. There is no doubt about this. Whatever being a man thinks of at the last moment when he leaves his body, that alone does he attain, being ever absorbed in the thought thereof. So interesting, this emphasis on the last thought before death. Why is there so much emphasis on that? Because you are the most honest at that moment. It is much harder to think of the divine, to think of the Supreme Lord at the time of death than one thinks. because there's so much other things. Oh, my children, my parents, my family, all these different things. Oh, this amount of money, this what I've gained, my success, my degrees. But that which is the supreme, it's so hard to actually do what Sri Krishna is saying. And that is why Sri Krishna advocates for that yogic practice, that thing that is constantly disciplined and that which is constantly worked at. Seeing God with trueness and absolute bliss, that is something that does not come naturally. It simply doesn't. This prakriti is too good. So keep working at it. Keep doing that yoga. Therefore, at all times, think upon me only and fight. With mind and understanding set on me, you will surely come to me. With the mind not wandering after anything else, made steadfast in yoga of constant practice, he who meditates on the supreme, resplendent Purusha reaches him, O Partha. This is exactly what I'm saying. When all that practice, when there's no more distractions, when you truly understand who you are, that is when everything matters. That resplendent Purusha, that which is the consciousness, that which is the container in all of this prakriti, all of this particularity, the sum total of all Shakti is the consciousness. And that is why we call the person the yogi, and the yoga being the science behind understanding this entire nature. The yogi understands all of it. The omniscient, the ancient, the ruler, minuter than an atom, the supporter of all, of form inconceivable, effulgent like the sun, and beyond all darkness, he who meditates on this resplendent supreme Purusha at the time of death with a steady mind, devotion, and strength of yoga, well fixed the entire prana in the middle of the eyebrows, he reaches him. That supreme concentration on the consciousness, that everything is one when the sum total of all Shakti is combined into the singularity. In the autopsy of Vivekananda, there's said to be some type of breakage on the crown area. And that is evidence of when he meditated, and during meditation, he actually passed away. His prana was so powerful that he broke through the physical body and ascended. Now, I'm also going to go back to this line, minuter than an atom. Do not get mixed up and impose modern definitions onto what is ancient philosophical understanding. This atom is not the electron, neutron, proton. It is the philosophical idea that when you cut something in half and you cut it again and again and again, you cut that half into another half and so forth and so on. The atom is that, this anu is that which is the smallest unit of any particular thing. That is what the definition of anu is. In a philosophical way, this was already understood a very long time ago. Now that we have material science to understand what this actually is, just be careful with a lot of those type of vocabulary words. That which the knower of the Veda called the imperishable, and into which entered the sannyasins, self-controlled and freed from attachment and desiring, which they lead a life of countenance, that I shall declare to you with brevity. So he's giving Arjuna the direct knowledge of the Vedas now. All the gates of the body closed, the mind confined within the heart, having fixed his life energy in the head, engaged in firm yoga, uttering the one syllable Om, Brahman, thinking of me, he who departs leaving the body, attained the supreme goal. Again, Sri Krishna is telling us his supreme knowledge of the Upanishads, particularly the Mandukya Upanishad that says that Om is verily all this. All of this is Brahman. It makes that equivocation. Therefore, Om is Brahman. There is no difference. That syllable Om is that consciousness which is all of what is before us. And not only that, he's giving some operational understanding on how to reach that enlightenment, closing all the gates of the body. There is no leakage in any apparatus, in the mouth, in the ears, in the eyes, in the nose, in the anus, and the private areas, there's no such thing as any prana being leaked. It's all internal. The churning that's happening within the self and that heart, in the heart chakra, it is said that to think of the guru, think of the deity within the heart, you can discover the true effulgence of all this creation. Chanting that one syllable Om can take one to the highest of seats. I am easily attainable, O Partha, by that ever steadfast yogi who constantly remembers me daily and thinks of nothing else. Remember, Sri Krishna is making the imperative very clear. Your concentration cannot be broken. That is the most important tool in your life. And we can be very practical with this. We could say that your life operationally, with your job, with the money handling, with your relationships, all of these things, when concentration is broken, a lot of other things can go wrong. And that concentration on that one thing, that focus, that level of precision can lead someone, it's unbelievable what someone can do with just focusing on one thing and one thing alone for a very, very, very long time. And Sri Krishna is saying what? Do it. Try it. And discover for yourself. That is how the yogi becomes the yogi. That they practice and they do the work to focus and do the yoga. Gaining of spiritual power, any siddhi, anything that you want, materialistic, spiritual, whatever it is, it always required your concentration. It always required your dedication to a singular thing. Having come to me, the great souls are no more subject to rebirth, which is transitory and the abode of pain, for they have reached the highest perfection. All worlds, including that of Brahma, are subject to return, O Arjuna. But on reaching me, O son of Kunti, there is no rebirth. So Brahma, not Brahman, Brahman is that which is equivalent to Sri Krishna, to Vishnu. When he speaks of me, he's speaking of all of this creation, all of this as consciousness itself. Brahma is the particularity within the creation. In the Puranic stories, Brahma sprouts from Vishnu's navel, where first there is the lotus flower, and from the lotus flower, when it blooms, there is Brahma ready to create all the worlds and all the lokas and creation. Now, Brahma is not actually worshipped because his work is done. The conservation of mass, energy, and information that we understand in science is understood here. There is nothing more to create. Everything is just a matter of karma. Everything is just going through the motions, one after the other, the domino effect of creation. He's kind of there making mistakes in the Puranic stories, getting punished by Bhairava, doing this thing, getting fooled here. And that is all a reflection because Brahma is a reflection of his own creation. He is that which cannot be worshipped because he is directly your ego. He is directly your identity. He is part of that particular phenomenon that he has created. Those who know that the day of Brahma lasts 1,000 yugas and that his night lasts 1,000 yugas, they are knowers of day and night. Here we get into the particularities of this creation, how this universe comes about. We're getting into the yogic science now. How does everything, we have the Big Bang theory, we have different other types of theories about creation. What does Sri Krishna think about all this? At the coming of day, all manifest beings proceed from the unmanifested, and at the coming of night, they merge again in the same, which is called the unmanifested. Very interesting. An expansion and then a contraction, a coming of night which merges again. So interesting that it's as if the singularity expands and the singularity is created. Now, notice that Sri Krishna gives a timeline. 1,000 yugas. And then night lasts 1,000 yugas. A yuga, how long is a yuga? We'll look up here. So a yuga is around 4.32 million years long. 1,000 of those would be around 4 billion years. Now we understand that the universe is at least 13.8 billion years old. So, in terms of exact science, now there are some conversions that happen often within Puranic stories, within even the Mahabharata, within the Ramayana. How old is Ram? Ram is said to be thousands of years old, but if you do the conversion, someone that lives within their dharma is said to be so and so amount of years per actual year. There's these types of rules like that. So there might be some type of hidden calculation going on in the Gita itself. This multitude of beings coming forth again and again merge, O Partha, in spite of themselves at the approach of night and remanifest themselves at the approach of day. This universe is constantly merging together into that singularity and expanding again and re-merging again. This constant cycle of creation. This is what Sanatana Dharma believes in the theory of the beginning and the end of the universe. Oh, you go to work, you go visit your friends, you go party over there at night. But as long as you come back to the same bed you slept in the beginning of the day when you woke up, your distance traveled might be far, but the displacement will always be zero. As long as this universe merges back again. This is why Sri Krishna says, the sage says to himself, that nothing ever actually happens at all. Scientific theories breaks down into 3 different ways how the universe is actually going to end. Now, one is the heat death theory. Since the universe is actually expanding faster and faster, it is said that the heat within all of this creation is actually going to be dispersed more and more and more until everything reaches absolute zero and there's nothing left. That is a pretty bleak way to end. Apparently, it is also the way the universe lasts the longest. So, very interesting trade off. Now, the other is the big rip, which is the universe actually expands so fast, since it's expanding faster and faster as time goes by, it can presuppose that it could accelerate so much that space-time actually rips because of this speed. Now, that's pretty dangerous. Who knows what will happen there? That is pretty scary, that type of theory. But the other one is when the big crunch happens. This theory that mass and matter, the thing that we can interact with, light itself, not the dark energy that is pulling everything further and further apart and speeding up creation. Somehow, this light and this energy that we understand in the material universe, in the material world, actually wins the battle and crunches everything together. And that is what is actually closer to the idea of the universe being destroyed and being created again in Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma agrees that the big crunch theory is actually the most accurate as to how this universe will begin and end. So those theories are there within theoretical science, and who knows what's the absolute truth, and we're getting closer and closer to that in science. But beyond this unmanifested, there is yet another unmanifested eternal existence, which does not perish even when all existences perish. Now, first of all, existences, plural. Brahma is said to be in multitude. There's only one Vishnu, but Brahma is in different places, all with different number of heads, with different bodies, all across the cosmos and all of possibilities and realities. There's all many different realities, different lokas that exist within Sanatana Dharma that we understand the cosmology to be. And this unmanifested, this unmanifested is called the imperishable. It is said to be the ultimate goal. Those who attain to it return not. This is my supreme abode. This duality that we live in. Everything is ones and zeros. Everything is light and dark. Everything is up, down. And if you have left, you have right. If you have good, you have evil. And all the granularity in between these extremes is what you see before us. Now, this other state, this third state, reaching that is the liberation. Because that's what is the ultimate goal. It is away from the duality of this existence. If everything is actually this extremes into this granulation that creates this prakriti and all of this existence, then it would suppose that liberation is actually something separate from the duality, a third state. This supreme Purusha, O Partha, is attainable by unswerving devotion to him alone, within whom all beings dwell, by whom all this is pervaded. That supreme consciousness can be attained by the focus. Look at that. Still. He's not letting you go. He's not letting Arjuna go. He's not letting the reader go on the idea that focus is imperative. Now I shall tell you, O best of the Bharatas, the time in which the yogi departs never to return, also the time in which they depart to return. Okay, we get the life cycle of the individual Jiva Atma. Fire, light, daytime, the bright half of the moon, and the 6 months on the northern path of the sun. Then going forth, the knower of Brahman, go to Brahman. Smoke, night, the dark half of the moon, and the 6 months of the southern passage of the sun. Then going forth, the yogi obtains the lunar light and returns. The bright and the dark, these paths are deemed to be the world's eternal paths. By the one, a man goes not to return. By the other, he returns again. So, in essence, there are two ultimate paths that one can attain, either the light or the dark. Now, largely, Shloka 24 and Shloka 25 are metaphorical. They're not meant to be literal. There's all sorts of problems when you take it very literally, like, oh, if you're in a plane and the 6 months of the northern path of the sun, if you're in the equator and all this other stuff, don't take that literally. But what Sri Krishna is trying to get at is that the observer of the possibilities that the Jiva Atma can take, that soul journey that an individual can go through, there is these two binary paths, as all creation of all particularity that we can observe has this binary understanding. Now, Sri Krishna was only talking about there is the unmanifested, unperishable, which is the third state, that which is completely paradoxical, that which is Brahman, that neither exists nor does not exist. And actually, Sri Krishna will talk about that later in the Gita. But for now, what are we trying to say? We're trying to say, as long as we're in this position, as relative to us being the observer of what is possible, there are two paths. So we're not getting into ultimate truths and weird paradoxical understandings of Brahman. There's clearly just the light and the dark, and that is very directional, very useful for us in our relative position. Knowing these two paths, O Partha, no yogi is deluded. Therefore, O Arjuna, be steadfast in yoga at all times. God, he doesn't quit with the focus. Be steadfast in that yoga, that chapter 6, when he's giving the directions on how to do yoga, how to meditate, how to become the yogi, and saying that it is very difficult to do. It is constant what Sri Krishna is doing. Focus. The yogi who knows this transcends the fruits of meritorious deeds attached to the study of the Vedas, sacrifices, austerities, and gifts, and attains to the supreme primeval abode, that which understands the ultimate truth with real understanding, not the fake understanding. Oh, I read it in a book and I think I get it. No. Real understanding. You feel it in every single waking moment, all the time, that all is one. And the desire for these frivolous things no longer exist. The things that are coming and going and constantly, that won't stay with you when you die. The Vedas are encyclopedic knowledge. The pujas and the hamans that we do, these things are, they're a part of this prakriti. They're very important to help us to navigate and to help us to understand. But once understanding is met, those things also can get dropped off. that the supreme primeval abode is above any ritual, is above any gift, any siddhi, anything that you could possibly gain in this life. That's what the yogi understands. When you really get it, that man, this creation begins and ends, it begins and ends. The big crunch theory that Hinduism, that Sanatana Dharma is prescribing to that will happen. According to the Gita, the ocean is constant, but the waves come and go. But even if we're just another wave, we should enjoy the surf. It's going to keep happening again and again until what? Until you get it in such a real way. Again, not in an encyclopedic way. You can't read about it. You got to live it. It's an experience. The ultimate truth will always be an experience. And I hope that every single one of us strives with bravery and with actually going out there and presenting themselves in their best way possible, with their best foot forward in life. The possibilities are truly endless. And we should explore those possibilities with practice and dedication and with absolute focus. Sri Krishna, always talking about focus. This is the Hindu Conceptualist, signing out.